everybody. My name is Miguel Garcia. I'm the hub director for the North Houston Best Hub, and we're welcoming you to our competition. It's going to be very exciting, very interesting, and we hope that we can make it something that is very appealing to you and your students. The idea of Best Robotics is to really get students excited and enthusiastic about STEM and engineering in particular. And this is all for them. And we make an effort to make it interesting. So please, given the changes that have happened in the last few months, we ask you that if you were expecting something from previous experience that we had running the hub, with these limitations we have being online, we may not be as proficient at certain things we used to do well before. So please, we seek your understanding. So I want to start by sharing my screen with all of you. And I want to go, where is this? There you go. Can everybody see my screen?
Loading. It's in my ears. Get it out.
Is it still loading?
I can see it.
Okay, very good.
See it.
Very good. Okay, so this year's competition is called Outbreak. You already know that. And today is September 11th. This is our kickoff meeting. So welcome everybody again. I wish I was welcoming you again out of Lone Star College at Montgomery, but things happen in such a way that we're going to do it, and we're doing it this way. So basically, this year's game is called Outbreak because actually it's quite appropriate because we're dealing currently with this pandemic, and the Outbreak is a game that is going to involve the engineering skills of our students to try to develop a robot that is going to help control and reduce the propagation of an epidemic or of a pandemic. So the topics we're going to discuss today, this evening, is going to be first a competition overview. Then we're going to go into the awards, and then we're going to explore and explain what the game is this year. So let me get going here. First, the competition overview, the kickoff. Today is going to be, I'm going to give you the game overview for Outbreak. And tomorrow, September 12th, you should have gotten an email from Jennifer Gutierrez about the pickup of the kits. So we're going to have 3 kits: the consumable kit, returnable kit, and the field kit. And we're going to have to use a protocol, which I'm going to go in a second, to get the kits. And the reason has to do with the impositions we have from several parties on safety health matters. So bear with us. The pickup of kits is going to happen from 9 to 11 tomorrow at Houston Christian High School. So I'm going to go into that. To give you an idea, for those of you that don't know exactly where Houston Christian High School is, I'm giving you a map here of the metropolitan Houston area, Houston metropolitan area, and you can see Loop 8 right in here. Right on Loop 8, which is Sam Houston Parkway, on the northwestern part of the loop, right between 10 and 290, Highway 10 and 290, is Houston Christian High School. You can see it in here, and you can see in here, Houston Christian High School on the right-hand side is right next to 8. And to go in here, you're going to have to go through Kempwood Drive. Kempwood Drive is the way you're going to have to come in into the high school. And you're going to have to fill a form that Houston Christian High School is requiring from everybody who's going to be on their campus tomorrow. You're going to have to fill it in. Jennifer Gutierrez is going to tell us more about it at the end so that you're ready to come in tomorrow to pick up. Whoever is going to come out to pick up the kids needs to fill that form. Every single person that is going to come from your team to do that has to fill that form. To make it a little bit more, to understand exactly how we're going to do it, this is Houston Christian High School. This is the entrance. This is this entrance in here on Kempwood Drive. There's an entrance here. There's another one in here, and this is the way it looks. It's a two-way street here. It's internal to their campus. There's a parking lot in here, and this is a building with a U-drive in here. You can see the U-drive in here with a covered area over the sidewalk on that U-drive. And we would like you to come in this way into the driveway, into the U-drive, according to the protocol and the schedule that you have received or will receive from in the registry from Jennifer. Now, because the COVID-19, we are going to have, I think, 3 stations, 1 for each kid. That's my understanding. Please correct me if that's not, if that has changed, Jen or Ernesto. But we're going to have 3 stations, and we're going to have you stay in your vehicles until maybe you need to load your materials. You're going to be given that. It's going to be a drive-through, and we're going to try to do it as quickly and safely as possible. We're going to have to all be wearing masks, okay? That's part of the protocol that we need to follow. And we want you to be there at the time slots allocated to your teams. And obviously, we have to be flexible, and if you get there earlier than your time slot or later than your time slot for whatever reason, we ask you to come into this parking lot here and park in here, but keep a parking lot space, a parking space of separation between vehicles, and try to park in the center area here. This area here is when you drive in and you go through the U-drive to pick up your kids, we're asking you to come into this part of the parking lot to inspect your kids, and if something is missing or you think that is broken or whatever, we're gonna fix it at that time. Now, we're not asking you to walk back in here because we want this operation to be very fluid and very lean. So I am going to be the going between whatever problems are with your kids and the team in here to see how we can resolve whatever part is missing or damaged, so on and so forth. So this area, we're asking you that you come in here after you go through the U-drive to get your kids. And once you inspect them, if you're happy, you're free to leave. That's all it is. If you arrive early, please wait in here. If you arrive late, also wait in here. And then you're going to have to talk to me or other people in our team to see how we're going to reschedule your, when and what time slot you're going to get your kids. Okay? So everyone must fill this Houston Christian COVID-19 pre-screen, and then you need to wear masks, okay? And that's all that is very important here. And we're asking you to bring 1 or 2 helpers to help you load the materials on your trucks. You know, when you came to our campus on Montgomery in Lone Star College, you will bring with your students all the materials to your vehicles. Well, we're asking you to do the same thing, but instead of having to walk several hundred feet to your vehicles, you're going to be right in front of the kids. So it's just going to be a quick loading into your vehicles. Some of you have indicated that you cannot bring helpers for whatever reason. We're asking you to try to figure out if you can bring 1 or 2 helpers for the loading of your kids into your vehicle. If not, then one of us is going to help us. It's going to help you load it in that. Maybe that will be myself or someone else as well. By the way, if you have any questions, you could ask those questions right now on the chat, and they're going to be staged such that at the end of the presentation, we can address them. And if you have also questions that you want to ask on the microphone, also, if you would please wait until the end of the presentation, we can discuss that and have plenty of time for that. Okay, so all the information, the competition overview is for the kickoff. All the information you are going to need here is going to be on the registry. In the past, we used to give you a memory stick with all the files and all the information, and you needed a password for the game. Now, all of that is going to be on the registry. And all the communications, all the judging and the scoring is going to be done through there. All the rules are there, all the documents, all the field drawings, all the checklists for the kids, every link and the software information you need is going to be there, as well as the question and answers. Remember, the Q&A is very important, and all of that is going to be done through the registry as well. Okay, so game day. So week of November 9 is when we're going to have our game day. Actually, we're going to have a practice day early in the week. This is what we're no longer going to have a demo day. So we're just going to have a practice day early in the week. And the practice day is going to be in your own field. And we're going to be looking at that and monitoring it online. So that has to be scheduled. And that will be determined on a moving forward basis. It's not yet determined the specifics of that schedule. Then we're going to have the marketing presentations from Friday the 13th to Sunday the 15th during game week. And they are going to be, the reason is we're going to be doing them separately and hopefully ahead of the competition. But the marketing presentations usually require that the robot is finished, and that's why we're pushing it all the way until the 13th. But they're all going to be done online as well. And then the game day is going to be Saturday 14 and Sunday 15. We don't know if we're going to be able to finish on the Saturday 14. It depends on the number of teams and on the time it takes for each match, right? And the number of matches that we're going to have. But we have allocated 2 days just so that everybody has the opportunity to do all their time trials or matches, same thing. And we can take account of everybody. And then the previous week, the week of November 2nd, we're going to require that the engineering notebooks be delivered to us online, obviously, because we're going to send them to our volunteers who are going to review those notebooks. Same thing, the exhibit and team interviews are going to be done that week as well. And the critical design review is going to take place also during that week. The specifics of all of that will be coming along as time goes by. You'll be getting communications from us about the scheduling of the exhibit and team interviews, and also the critical design review, so on and so forth. Okay, so the game day, the robot competition, we decided to use to do the classroom, not the online. We decided to do the classroom. We're not going to do the multi-team. And as a matter of fact, the regionals are not going to do a multi-team. They're going to do a classroom. That's UIL as well. So last year we had a drivers meeting. seeding rounds, then the wild card round, semifinals, and finals. This year, we're going to have that drivers meeting just with your team, right? And then time trials or matches instead of the seeding rounds. We're not going to have a wild card round. We're not going to have semifinals. And the final score is going to be the average of the time trials. So if we do 3 time trials per team or 8 time trials per team, we're going to average that, and the final score is going to be your score in the competition. Now, team exhibits is going to be part of the best award. That is a must for those that want to participate in UIL, right? Student interviews as well for the best award. And then creative design, which is the Founders Award. Those are mandatory, okay? Advancing, so top teams advance to Texas Best, and also the top teams register in UIL advance to the UIL State Championship. Now recall that UIL always requires participation in the Best Award. So if you want to be UIL, you have to do the Best Award. And teams can qualify for both. You could do both. You can qualify for both, right? And then the Best Award online judging is going to take place Monday, November 30th through December 3rd. I was going to say down in up in Frisco, Texas at the that arena, but it's not going to be like that. It's going to be online. I just put this in here as it has happened on previous years, but it's going to be online. And then it's going to be a classroom and 3D virtual game. Originally, the regionals were not going to do the virtual games, which is just the skills, the online skills game competition. But they decided to change that, and now they're going to do both classroom and the 3D virtual game skills competition. And that's going to happen Saturday, September the 4th through Sunday, December the 5th. The number of teams is still to be determined. I don't have that yet. I don't think anyone on our team that has that, unless Paul tells me otherwise. Paul Utes. I think that's going to be determined later, but that's what we have right now. Then the advancing UIL information available is on the registry on all these matters. And remember, UIL robotics is restricted to Texas high schools only. And in addition, the high school must be a UIL member. If your high school is not a UIL member, then you're going to have a problem if you are interested in UIL competition. And teams must compete in the Best Award. We have already said that, but it doesn't hurt repeating it. Okay, let's talk about the awards. So the robotics competition, we're going to have the 3 top teams. And for the Best Award, the 3 top teams, and they get a trophy, right? So that's what is going to go. Where we have also the Simulink Design Award and the Best Critical Design Review. Those are also mandatory, I think, for the regional as well. And then what is optional is what the hubs do regarding the skill challenges. So we have decided, basically almost at the last minute, to offer all these skill challenges: Bestmania, Minecraft, website design, video design, robot modeling, and engineering drawings. And we will judge those categories. I am sure many of your students want to show their proficiency and prowess in any one of these categories. These are we're offering these skill challenges as well. Okay, so the awards, in Best Award, there's one scenario, and actually there are 3 scenarios that were given to the hubs. We could do the project engineering notebook mandatory, and then the robot performance mandatory, and then we could have chosen either marketing presentation or team exhibit and interview. But I believe that the regional requires these 4, so we decided to opt for these 4 as well as mandatory in our competition. So this is what we're going to do for the best award. And by the way, that is required for UIL teams. Okay, it's just optional for others. So someone that is just interested in the robot competition, well, they still have to do the engineering notebook. But okay. If you have any questions in that regard, this is just the end of the part that is about our competition. Now I'm going to go into the game. So all game questions should be asked on the Q&A part of the registry, but we are going to open for question and answer at the end of this presentation. Okay, so let's go now to the classroom game rules. What is new this time? What is the actual game? Well, the game, this is the game. A major pandemic has brought disease to millions of people. So your job is to design, build, and operate a micro robot to isolate infected cells from others and apply localized vaccines to slow or stop the spread of the infection within the human body. This is important to clarify because we're not going to be dealing with a robot that is going to go in between locations, between hospitals. No, you're going to design, test, build, and operate a robot that is going to go inside the human body and is going to look for cells that are either infected, they are not infected, or they are already immune. 3 categories. We're going to go more into that in a minute. But so again, the competition is to design a micro robot, design, build, and operate a micro robot that will slow or stop the spread of infection within the human body. And the elements that are going to be used for that are cells, the human cells. Okay? So if we were going to do a head-to-head competition with multi-teams, there would be 4 quadrants, with each quadrant would be a 7x7 gridded area. But since the regionals are not going to do this and we're not going to do that either, then we're just going to focus on 1 quadrant, okay? So this is the game field. So the game field consists of this 7x7 gridded area, 18 inches by 18 inches each one of the grid blocks or grid squares, okay? And it's going to be, you're going to have a driver, a spotter, you're going to have 3 isolation frames, isolation from infection, okay? And 3 isolation platforms also from infection, isolation from infection. This is 6 inches tall, and this is 12 inches tall. And you also are going to have a testing staging area in this square of the grid in here with a tester in here. We're going to go into the specifics. And it's the spotter that is going to be handling things with this tester in this tester staging area. And the initial pieces are going to be located around here. We're going to go into that as well. And the original positions of all these isolation areas, 3 isolation frames made out of 1/2-inch PVC pipe and 2 isolation platforms are going to be original in these positions. These 2 platforms cannot move. They're fixed. These 3 isolation frames can be moved. Yes, you can move them with a robot if you want. So this is the game field. These strips in here are 1-inch tape. They are made out of 1-inch tape. So they're going to be very flush with the ground. It has to be white tape. I believe that's part of your kits and your field kits. And so your robot is going to go all over this area, And there are certain rules, obviously. We're going to go into those in a minute. Okay, so the key points for the competition, 1 driver and 1 spotter. Well, not too different from what we had in previous competitions. robots move all over the grid spaces on the field. Then the 1 quadrant field, 7 by 7 gridded. Then we already went through this. Now, this is very important. There are 21 cells made out of wood. They're blocks of wood. We're going to go into that in a minute. And we're going to see the 3 different categories for the cells. And we're going to have 3 supplies. Supplies are 3 simple vaccines, which are 3 tennis balls, and 1 super vaccine, which is a block with a red cross. So let's look at the quarter field. This is the starting locations for cells. So you have the driver, the spotter, the simple vaccines, 3 tennis balls right in here where the spotter area is. You have your cell tester, and you're going to have your platforms, and you're going to have, look at the positions. It's difficult to see, but here's one of the isolation frames, the second one and the third one in here. And then you have the platforms on these cells as well. I mean, grids as well, grid elements as well. And then you're going to have 3 cells in each one of these grid block areas. And this is going to be the starting position. 3 of the cells are going to be infected cells. 6 of the cells are going to be immune cells. And 12 or the 12 remaining cells are going to be uninfected cells. And those are the only ones that are going to count for the scoring. I'll go that further down the presentation, but let me repeat, we're going to have 3 infected cells, 6 immune cells, and then 12 uninfected cells for a total of 21 cells. So what are the primary tasks that the robots and obviously the participants are going to be engaging in? Well, first, separation. So there are 4 major tasks: separation, isolation, vaccination, and cell sampling. In the separation, you're going to separate uninfected cells from infected cells by at least 1 full grid space. In other words, separation means that if you have an infected cell here, separation means that everything, this area here cannot be, is area for contagion, okay? So separation means that you will have to put the uninfected cells in here so that they don't get the disease, okay, by the infected cells. We're gonna come back to that again. So let's just continue. Then isolation, move cells into an isolation zone, whether it's the isolation frame or platform, to avoid infection spreading to or from grid spaces outside the boundary of the isolation zone. Then vaccination, place a simple vaccine to immunize all uninfected cells within a grid space. You see, an uninfected cell, if it comes into a grid space that is near or adjacent to an infected cell, it will become infected, unless it's immunized first with the vaccine. Then place the super vaccine to immunize all uninfected cells within a grid space and all adjacent grid spaces. We're going to show that graphically, so it's much more clear than just words. And then cell sampling. This is the most interesting part of this year's competition, in my opinion, because this is the only way you can retrieve cells. The only way to retrieve cells from here by your robot is autonomously. All other activities like delivering vaccines or moving these frames can be done manually by the driver. But the retrieval of these cells for sampling here has to be done autonomously, and only autonomously. And I put it here with a driver control in case some people say, well, I thought autonomously meant me this. No, without driver control. As a matter of fact, the joystick needs to be put in a particular place away from the driver. No one can touch the joystick when this activity is taking place. Okay, let's go into the game field first, and then we're going to go into the scoring. So the isolation frames, the the isolation frame assembly is 18¼ by 18¼ half-inch pipe. You can see it in here. You already saw it in the game field. And then the platforms are almost 16 by 16. And these are 2x4s, and which are not really 2x4s. They are 3½ by 1½. So you have 6 inches tall and 12 inches tall. Okay. In here, they add the 1/8 height of the masonite board. That's why it's 12 inches tall with the platform. The actual 2x4s are 11 by 7/8, 11 7/8. Okay, all of this is going to be in the presentation that is going to be in the registry, this presentation. But it's also in the rules. Okay, the blocks, the cells, the actual cells. The cells are going to be made out of 4x4. So it's 4 inches by 4 inches. Actually, it's going to be 3½ by 3½. That's really what a 2x4 is. So just cut like that. And you see these little dots in here, they are holes, one on each side. And you're going to have 3 types of cells, infected 3, and in each hole, you're going to put 2 magnets in each of the 2 fill holes. So they're going to go 2 magnets in here and 2 magnets on the other side for what is going to be an infected cell. And we're going to have 3 of those. Then the immune cells we're going to have 6. They're going to have 2 magnets only in one of the holes. Remember, the infected have 2 magnets on both holes, and the immune has only 2 magnets, only on one hole. Uninfected cells have no magnets at all, but they still have the fill holes. And the idea is that you cannot tell infected from uninfected cells from the drivers or the spotters places unless you do the testing with the testing block. So the cell tester block, which looks like this, let me remind you what that is this little thing in here. That's the cell tester block in here. The 2 little dark dots are the magnets in there. I'm sorry, yes, they're not the magnets. It's a compass. It's a magnetic compass. So you have the block tester that looks like this. It's right in the spotters area. And what happens is the spotter brings the cell in here, and it knows when it's in here, this compass is going to detect if there's a magnet there or not. They're going to move. So the judges, the refs, as well as the spotter is going to know exactly what type of cell they're dealing with. These are the dimensions, so on and so forth. Okay, so the vaccines. The vaccines, a simple vaccine is just a tennis ball, and they're going to be located in the part of the field right next to, in the area, the spotter area, right behind the spotter on his left-hand side, or her left-hand side. And then there's going to be a super vaccine. We're going to differentiate the effects of both of them in a minute. So the super vaccine is a block with a red cross like that, and you must earn it. It's not given to you at the beginning of the match. You must earn it. And to cut to the chase, to earn it, you had to bring 1 cell autonomously to the testing area. Autonomously. If you bring 1 cell autonomously to the testing area, you are automatically given 1 of these. These are given to you at the beginning of the match, 3 of them. 3 vaccines, simple vaccines. This has to be earned, so you have to decide on your strategy how you want to go about it. But the moment you retrieve, no matter what kind of cell, infected, uninfected, or immune, you get this super vaccine. You have to get it by sampling, autonomously sampling them from the beginning. You cannot, once the cells are on the field, you cannot retrieve anyone autonomously and bring them here. No, they have to be from their original positions. If they are not in their original places, then you cannot retrieve them. It will not count at all. Your autonomous retrieval, your autonomous sampling of a cell has to be from the original, from the starting locations of the cells. Okay, so Very well. So the driver, what are the key things for the driver? Well, during the match, the driver may not touch any part of the field, any game piece, or the robot. That is true in most of the games that we have done over the years. Must keep his or her feet within the driver's box, same thing. Must maintain hands off the controller while the spotter loading game pieces onto the robot or manipulating the robot during autonomous setup period. And then the joystick must be on the hands-free surface, which could be a table or a chair, whatever you want to put it there, or on the floor before spotter touches the robot. Not touching the joystick during this time. The moment someone touches the joystick during this time, that doesn't count. Whatever you did there does not count. So, okay, that's for the driver. For the spotter, that's what most of the differences in this game are for the spotter, because the nature of this particular game, the game. So I'm not going to read them all, but may touch the field robot inside the robot starting area, may touch the field robot or game pieces inside the tester staging area during interactions with the robot or the game pieces. The game pieces are the testing cells or the vaccines, and the robot would be loading the super vaccine, right? Excuse me. May reposition the robot and may manipulate anything on the robot during autonomous setup. You can read everything else. Yes, but look at this. May load super vaccine onto robot after successful autonomous cell sampling when any part of the robot is inside the tester staging area. So this is interesting. You don't have to bring the robot, the spotter. Well, the robot doesn't have to be completely into the tester staging area for this to be valid. So the vaccine could be loaded onto the robot after this autonomous cell sampling, okay? And then cells placed in the tester staging area may be moved by the robot after the spotter is no longer touching it. So the driver may decide to do something, but that's after the spotter has touched, is no longer touching the area. Okay, let's talk about adjacency, okay? The spread of infection, imagine there are cells all over the place, and there's an infected cell here, and there are uninfected cells in any one of these squares or elements of the grid here. This is what is called adjacency, not just this, and this by an edge, also by the vertices or the corners. This is also considered adjacent. So if one of your cells is infected during the match and there's an uninfected cell here, then this cell is going to get infected in any one of these positions. This is important to remember, okay? Because that's part of what your strategy for the game. So this is the adjacency condition so that there's no mistake. No matter which square, all the squares surrounding this square with the infected cell is going to spread the infection to any of these neighboring adjacent cells, or it's not cells, squares. Okay, let's do an example of the spread of infection. So imagine you start here, you have a vaccine here, you have placed the vaccine here, you have two uninfected cells, one in this square, the other one in this square of the grid, and you have an immune cell on this one here. So then during the match, you're trying to do things with your robot to prevent the spread of infection, which is the name of the game, right? Then at the end of the match, when the bell sounds, the infection spreads instantly, and look what happens. So during the match, you're trying to move pieces around so that when the bell hits, when the bell rings, then they don't get infected. But if you are not able to move them, then at the end of the match, the infection spreads immediately to all these areas, instantly. So since this cell was immune, it's not going to be affected. Since this one was vaccinated, okay, by this simple vaccine, a tennis ball, then it's not infected. But this one is going to be infected. So this is newly infected. The term newly infected is very important. So you have uninfected, you have infected, and newly infected. Newly infected means is one of those 12 uninfected, original 12 uninfected cells. Those are the only ones that are going to be used for scoring. Your immune and your originally infected cells will not count into the calculation of the scores and to the scoring. So again, the spread of the infection is instantaneously at the end of the match. So once the match ends, then the infection spreads. Okay, now this is with a simple vaccine, a tennis ball. So the tennis ball only protects the cells inside this square. Does not protect adjacent cells, or not cells, squares. Let's go now to, oh, by the way, immunity does not spread at all. Immunity is immunity, that doesn't spread, only the infection spreads. So then we go to the super vaccine. Say you retrieve autonomously one cell into the testing area. Then you get a super vaccine, which is now this block in the same dimensions and form of the cells, but with this red cross on top of it. That's easily visible, okay? And then if it's inside here, and these two are uninfected, we're doing the exact same case as in the simple vaccination, but now instead of simple vaccination, we're using the super vaccine. Then at the end of the match, both of them are vaccinated and there's no spread of infection. That's what this does. It affects not just the cell in which, the square in which the super vaccine is located, but the adjacent cells as well. And that's why it vaccinates these two. Once these two are vaccinated, they become immune. Okay? Okay. There's a labeling of the field for scoring purposes. So it's going to be labels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. And the locations of the isolation frames and the platforms will be the same always at the start of the match. Well, for the platforms will be the same throughout the whole competition because they don't move. But the frames, the actual isolation frames, can be moved by the robot. And that's part of the strategy that you need to consider when you're trying to slow down or stop the spread of infection. Remember, you cannot, this game is not to cure cells. There's no cure for cancer, there's no cure for COVID-19, there's not even cure for the common cold. But you can immunize, you can vaccinate so that the infection doesn't continue to spread. And that's why it's called Outbreak game. This is a very interesting game. Look at the testing area here, okay? So let's go to scoring. So if at the end of the match, in the grid space, you have newly infected, in a grid space, you have newly infected cells, then that's going to be minus 10 points per cell. You start each match or each time trial, as they're called in this game, with a 200-point offset. In other words, the match starts with you having 200 points in your account, so to speak. And then at the end of the match, from that score, you're going to discount by these quantities the newly infected cells depending on where they landed. You know, you have in the grid space, or in an isolation frame, or in a low isolation platform, or in a high isolation platform. Look at this. You get to deduct from your 200 points this, times the number of cells that you have in there, right? In each one of these categories. Now, if they're vaccinated, you get the opposite. You get additional points to the 200. So you have 20 points for any vaccinated cell that you vaccinated, obviously, with the simple vaccines or the super vaccine. If it's in a grid space, 20, 40 if it's in an isolation frame, 50 if it's in a low isolation platform, and 80 if it's in a high isolation platform. And then you have, if you have uninfected cells, in other words, they did not get any infection because they were far, at least one grid space of separation from infected cells. These are the scores that you get, depending on where they are at the end of the match. Okay, so let's do an example of scoring. At the beginning of the match, you see in blue uninfected, then red infected, and then immune in green. So say during the match, you have these cells in here. You have uninfected, two, one in here, and you see at the top one uninfected, and at the bottom another uninfected. They are light blue in there so that to highlight that is underneath the platform. And then you have 3 uninfected here, and you have a simple vaccine in here. At the end of the match, this is what happens. So at the end of the match, you are gonna have 1, 2, 3 newly infected inside grids, okay? Then 1 isolated, okay? And 1 isolated here, and then 1 vaccinated in here, and that's it. So you have one of these, 1 of that, and 3 of this category. So how do you score that? You come in here, and then you say 3 in grid spaces. They are simple cells. You see, is 1, 2, 3, and in a simple grid space. So therefore, you get 3 times minus 10 is minus 30 here, okay? Nothing on the other categories because they are none in this. Then you have 1 in the grid space that was vaccinated. That adds 20 points. And then 7 uninfected in grid space. So that's 70 points. And then 1 in the isolation frame, 15 points. So your total score would be 275. So you start with 200, you subtracted this, and then you added all of this. You get 275 points for that match or time trial. That's the way the scoring is going to be done. Again, this is the end of the match happens, and then these are what the judges, the refs are going to be looking into to determine what the score is. Okay, so that's what the game is. And if you have any questions, this is the time to entertain them. And I didn't want to have a very long presentation. There was a video in there that we wanted to show you, the teaser video, but I couldn't find it, and my apologies to you. But I think you get the gist of what the competition is this year. Again, is to prevent the spread of infection, not that you're going to cure anyone, you're just going to vaccinate at the best, or isolate at the worst. Or, well, not the worst is that you're going to get infected, more cells infected. So before we go into the period of questions and answers, all the questions are going to be in the registry, okay, Q&A section. Game rules override hub director, okay, and Q&A overrides game rules. We say that all the time, but this time the Q&A is in the registry. So if you want to get the most authoritative view on a question you have regarding the rules, you have to go to the registry, into the Q&A section to get the answer, because whatever we can tell you may be overridden by what is there in the registry under Q&A. Okay, so are there any questions for us?
Well, Miguel, if I may, before you unmute anybody, okay? You guys might have been watching me on the video, and I have been furiously texting. So I have to make an announcement to everybody. and this
Okay.
regards the delivery of kits tomorrow.
Okay.
Basically, what has happened is tomorrow is not the 19th, it is the 12th. That's only important if you were reading the email that I sent to our consumable kits folks. They were planning on delivering kits on the 19th, not the 12th. Guys, that is my screw up. So I have been texting them. You would not believe the furious texting that's been going on. They actually have everything. So what's going to happen is they are going to furiously put this stuff together and get out to Houston Christian tomorrow. But what this means is it looks like everything is going to be delayed by 1 hour. Okay? So if you have a scheduled time already, I need you to help me out and slide that scheduled time later by 1 hour, please. Okay? Now, everybody is going to be unhappy about this, and I absolutely understand, guys. I screwed this up, not anybody else. However, there's not a lot I can do about it because if I open the window here, I'll be showing you New York, which is where I'm at. I'm not in Texas. I'm not anywhere even close to being able to help this. Otherwise, I would go in early tomorrow morning and correct all this. Okay, so guys, I sent out a note in the chat to make sure that everybody stay tuned for a special announcement. That is the special announcement, okay? So everybody, Jen and everybody has been doing a lot of work to try and get everything scheduled, and I kind of threw a wrench in the middle of everything. So I apologize for that, guys. Okay? So that having been said, remember everything's gonna just slide by 1 hour, and we're gonna do the absolute best we can, because I would imagine what will happen is those kits will show up and some people will actually be there to pick up kits while the delivery is being made. So again, we're gonna do the best that we can, okay?
Very well. So
everybody's, I like some of the chat here. Everybody's going, hey, great, some extra sleep.
well, we could decide right now. We could decide right now to move to keep the schedule so that we don't start sending different documents all over again. Keep the same documents we have regarding the schedule. Just slide it 1 hour. Just move it out 1 hour.
So, like I say, guys, we're not going to be able to go back and change all the texting now. It's done, and like I say, everything's going to slide by 1 hour. Okay.
Okay.
So
well,
again, we're living in the middle of COVID-19, and
yes.
This is just another thing that you guys. I actually had to take a client phone call while we were doing this. So anyway, so there we go, guys. Okay.
Well, let me say another thing to all the participating teams. You cannot imagine the amount of effort that Best Robotics has done to bring you this game, given COVID-19, because originally it was going to be a different game, and they turned on a dime to do this new game that would also could be done online only, or online with the classroom competition the way we're going to do it. And they've done a tremendous job, Best Robotics, in doing that. The game team committee has done a tremendous job at that, but also the North Houston Best team has done a very good job, I can tell you, about putting this together for all of you and your students. So if we have make mistakes, please be understanding with us, because we're dealing with things as they happen at last minute, and sometimes even hurricanes get in the way, right? So if I'm asking for your understanding, okay? So before we continue with the Q&A period, I'm sure you have a lot of questions. Let me just thank the national sponsors, which is Texas Instruments and MathWorks. MathWorks provides the Simulink software as well as the MATLAB, and they are a really good national partner for Best Robotics. IGUS obviously, and then software providers, HSM, SolidWorks, Siemens, Intelitech, RoboMatter Incorporated, and then the resource providers, Wolfram and SolidWise. But also, I want to thank, whoops, I put ExxonMobil twice. I'm sorry. It's G.J. Snyder. He's been a tremendous support of the North Houston Best all the time. So has Paul, okay, and Steve Nair and ExxonMobil. So I want to thank these sponsors for having made this possible. And believe me, putting together the kits, the returnables, the consumables, and now the fuel kits is not an easy task. It's actually a major logistical problem. And remember, this is not our job. We're volunteers, and we do this very gladly because we want to get you all enthusiastic about science and engineering and mathematics. So be understanding with us. That's what we're saying, okay? So thank you to the students too from previous competitions and our volunteers. You can recognize many of them in here and as well as in here, the volunteers. And what now? You know, when in doubt, read the rules, and still in doubt, read the rules. Now, I want to open it for question and answer.